I'm joined by Shai Weiss. He is the CEO of Virgin Atlantic. Virgin Atlantic this year celebrating 40 years in business. Shai, great to see you.
Nice to be here.
So 40 years, what's next?
Another 40 years, first of all. So, it's delightful to celebrate our 40th anniversary. June 22nd, 1984, a flight from Gatwick into Newark Airport. And, the thing that sets us apart has always been the red thread, our people, the magic that we make happen every single flight. Yeah, so we're delighted to be here. In the future, well, the future is bright. We have a very clear mission to be the most loved travel company and become sustainably profitable. And we're very much on course to achieving that.
Okay, we'll pick apart the profitability story in just a moment. So in terms of new routes, in terms of what you're doing with the airline this year, what are the plans?
Yeah, so today we're announcing actually 3 new partnerships. We're now announcing a code-share with El Al and 2 of our SkyTeam partners, Saudia and SAS. And we're also announcing that we're returning to Tel Aviv on September the 5th. So, increasing connectivity to our partners in SkyTeam and providing our customers with more choice and actually people coming into London and flying beyond.
How easy was it to make the decision to return to Tel Aviv?
We were the last carrier to actually fly into Tel Aviv out of the UK. So the decision was made a few months ago. I think September is the right time to do it. And it's all about first of all, demand, but of course the feeling that our people should be comfortable flying there because our people stay overnight in Tel Aviv and we want them to be comfortable doing their jobs, and I think September is the right time for that.
This isn't based on progress of the peace deal, this isn't based on what is happening with the geopolitical story, it is just based on a demand story and the certainty that you have that your people will be safe.
Yes, and of course the Delta is flying this week to Tel Aviv. I think United is coming after them, so I think there is a sense that the carriers are seeing that things have stabilized, and of course with Biden's announcement and hopefully the parties can find a way to accept his proposal and get much needed stability and peace for everyone in the Middle East.
Interesting that you've got almost on the same piece of paper a code-share with Saudia and a return to Israel.
Yes, and the beautiful thing about it is we've added SAS, so kind of our Scandinavians in the middle, to show that Virgin Atlantic, of course, does business with everyone. Wherever there is demand and it's our partners, we are happy to provide it. But it's a 3-way announcement today. We could have done it individually, but actually all these conversations started a year ago here in IATA. It's nice to see progress a year on.
Let's talk about politics. British election coming up, and it looks as if we're going to see a change in government. What do you want to see from that next administration in 10 Downing Street? It looks like it's going to be the Labour Party. That's what the polling is suggesting at the moment. What's the message? What does the aviation sector, what does Virgin Atlantic need to see from that next government?
Think we've been very, very clear, and it's really not about who wins the elections. It's about a new sense of pride in aviation in the United Kingdom. There's some amazing companies in the United Kingdom, but I think, the need to tax aviation companies with very thin margins, the fact that there is a lot of policies in sustainability, and the fact that we don't recognize that as an island nation, we really need a thriving aviation industry. So what I'm looking for from the government is leadership and understanding that aviation is the friend of the UK public and the friend of government. We need it for trade, for, of course, connecting families and loved ones, for tourism, and a strong aviation, a strong Virgin Atlantic can only be achieved if there is support for that from government.
One of the key things that obviously you've been talking about a lot over the last few years has been what has been happening at Heathrow. British Airways has been having the same conversation. Yes. There's a sense that maybe the customers, i.e. the airlines, have not been getting a fair crack of the whip in terms of the money that is having to be paid in order to make that airport work. Now there's been some changes. Did the changes go far enough? What do you want to? Would you like to see? Would you suggest the next government that we see changes at Heathrow?
Well, first of all, it's a very opportune time. We have a new leadership at Heathrow. We have potentially new government coming in and potentially new ownership of Heathrow.
Yep.
There is no doubt in my mind that we need to see change at Heathrow. The service is simply not good enough for the most expensive airport in the world. Yep. It's the most busiest airport in Europe. It's the 4th busiest in the world. And when you're here in Dubai and Abu Dhabi and you can see what can be done with fantastic infrastructure, we need to see better on behalf of our customers.
What does that look like? What would you like to see the model being?
I'd like to see a more efficient, a cleaner, of course.
Okay, that's all fine. But does the current ownership structure work? Would there be a better model that would work?
I think if we had the opportunity to actually participate in an ownership and running of a terminal, we would do a far better job.
So you break Heathrow up into separate terminals?
That's one of the options. There are many options to consider. But first, let's not forget, Heathrow is a regulated asset base, just like Thames Water.
Yeah.
So there is a reason why they are regulated, because there is only one true hub in the United Kingdom. It happens to be Heathrow. When you tend to be a dominant player or a monopoly player, you tend to be complacent. And I would think that if there was free competition at Heathrow or more sense of competition at Heathrow, the service the consumers would get would be far improved and airlines could do a better job.
You don't think the Thames Water example is that actually competition doesn't work?
No, what I actually think is that just burdening stuff with debt, not thinking about the consumers at the end of the game. That's where things start to fail, and I think there's different models. Of course, water is not exactly airports,
sure.
But the parallels are clear, and the comment is fair.
You talk about Heathrow, Gatwick. You used to be there.
We used to be there, and
I hear that you'd be welcome back.
Yeah, that's what I hear, and we always like to be welcome back.
Yep.
It's 40 years for the first flight from Gatwick, and my answer is a very clear one: never say never. There is the historic home of Virgin Atlantic.
Yep.
There are constraints at Heathrow in terms of the ability to grow.
Yep.
Never say never.
Do you think a Trump presidency would make a transatlantic airline's life more difficult?
The good news is I don't have to vote, and neither does anybody in the UK. But we do know that, of course, there is a special relationship between the UK and the US. So whoever wins the elections, I'm sure will recognize the need to establish that.
But it feels like we're heading into a more fragmented world, and the less fragmented world has suited big international airlines. A more fragmented world, in theory, would do the exact opposite. Is that a fair conclusion?
Well, a unified word, I think, in a global world is better for airlines, of course, because airlines are necessary in that type of an environment.
Yeah.
There are more isolationist world is not where we play in. There are 1.4 billion people voting this year. Of course, We're just about to finish the Indian elections, US, the UK, and elsewhere. We've just seen Mexico. So I would like to think that the people who are voting understand that stability is good, that cooperation is good. It does feel a bit more fragmented, but airlines don't run things for 1 year or two. That we run things into a very long future. Looking ahead, I'm pretty confident that the US will lead the way in creating an environment that is inclusive.
Congratulations on the 40 years, Shai. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed for stopping by to see us.